Welcome back to The Rebel's Edge. I'm John Najarian, my brother Pete joining shortly. And speaking of shortly, we might be talking about the Intel CEO's lifespan as the CEO of Intel, because it seems like there's a lot of pressure mounting on that company right now. We'll have the 411 on that and the rest of today's market moving news on The Rebel's Edge. Bang!
It's another one. Stacking them up, John.
That's right. Episode number 565. Welcome back, folks, to The Rebel's Edge. He, of course, is Pete Najarian. I'm John Najarian. And we're going to give you the 411 on exactly what we just spoke about. Intel, as well as some great earnings and some unusual activity. I know you guys love that. But we'll kick it off today, Pete, with macro. And I'll say initial jobless claims rose unexpectedly to 226,000 from 221,000. But the Bank of England said, hey, that's enough for us to cut interest rates again. So they took them to 4%, the lowest level since March of 2023. What do you got for macro today, Pete?
You know, the president has been a catalyst for a lot of different things, John. And, from one thing to the next. And how about this whole chip tariff thing? If it's not made in the U.S., they're going to have some tariffs thrown at them that are pretty large. So I think it's another one of these where it's a brilliant move, quite frankly, in the direction that he wants to go. So makes total sense. And it certainly is affecting the markets, I think, not necessarily in a bad way, although there are certain parts of the market that are not really holding up their end of things. But overall, look at how positive we are again. It's been a great recovery since Friday.
Well, Pete, and remember that phrase taco that they tried to throw out there and hang it around the president's neck? Taco. Yeah. What's taco? Trump always caves, TACO. Anyway. If this is what caving looks like, I'll take it all day long. Yep. So how does that Japan deal look, Pete? How does the UK deal look? How does EU look? How do all these deals look? It doesn't look like he caved. It looks like we're getting everything he wanted, and they're not tariffing us at all in the other direction in the case of the EU. In some of the others, there will be some tariff. But, I mean, that is a straight out just win. And now, by the way, Pete, the head of Switzerland came to the United States yesterday to meet with Trump. Trump said, I got more important things than you. So he met with Rubio. He didn't even meet with Bessent, Pete. He didn't meet with any of the other trade negotiators. And I'm not trying to throw shade on Rubio, but the guy, or the person rather, it's a lady, I believe, came in from Switzerland, spoke, and then left because they said, nope. If you guys are doing this to our stuff, we are demanding this from you, or you're going to get the biggest tariffs in the Western world, which kicked in today.
Yeah.
So taco? I don't think so. All right. Let's take a look, Pete, at fantastic futures. I'm going to say Ethereum futures because Ethereum's up over 4% since yesterday. The rise coincides with President Trump's executive order allowing Ethereum to be included in your 401k, folks. So this is another big support for the big digital assets, the big ones, of course, being Bitcoin and Ethereum. But we'll keep our eye on it. Global cryptocurrency market has risen by nearly 2% in the past 24 hours, Pete.
Yeah, and suddenly I got sun just flying through here, so I apologize about that. But I will say this, John, the volatility index, we talk about it all the time. How about the fact that on Friday, here we were at 2040, and then all of a sudden Monday at 1750, and then Tuesday it gets into the 16s, and then now we're looking at 16 to 1650. I mean, it just shows you how resilient and how reactive the markets are. They just gobble it up. It's unbelievable, and it's been a really, really impressive run. Obviously, Friday didn't look all that great. A lot of things going on, a lot of selling going, and obviously that volatility spike, but it was one day, and we're right back nearly to where we were. So it's an amazing number today, and it would be even better except for the fact that this turn that we've gotten from the Dow about after the first hour of trade today.
Yeah. Well, folks, we're going to do a small cap spotlight. You guys know we love to talk about some of the companies we're involved in. And this is one that I am involved in. I'll have more to say after John Farrell plays this short video.
No new treatments for bone cancer osteosarcoma in 40 years. There are no treatments when this rare pediatric cancer spreads to the lungs. Now, OS Therapies, OSTX on the NYSE, reported positive trial results that could lead to a 2025 approval. OSTX grandfathered into FDA's priority review voucher program. Osteosarcoma revenue could reach $500 million. OSTX also just added lung and prostate cancer immunotherapies to its pipeline. OS Therapies, OSTX.
Well, Pete, OS Therapies, I mean, these guys are doing fantastic work, which is why we're so interested in the company, folks. On today's small cap spotlight, indeed, the company that we just shared with you had big news from one of our favorite companies, OSTX. Their clinical stage company that has been featured on Rebel's Edge before, the symbol OSTX, and they're advancing treatments for osteosarcoma. As you just heard, that is something that really affects children early on in their life, Pete, and it can move, metastasize, if you will, from those bones into the lungs and things, and then pretty much just a death sentence. The CEO of OSTX joined me on the New York Stock Exchange to share some exciting news, and they announced that their phase 2 trials for their pulmonary metastatic osteosarcoma treatment revealed significantly improved patient survivability. That's fantastic. And OSTX also announced that they've begun the process for regulatory approval of novel treatment in the UK. Exciting stuff for a company striving to develop effective therapies for this form of cancer. And please note that we are indeed shareholders in OSTX and have been compensated for this statement. And it's going to be an exciting time for this company, Pete, because believe it or not, they also can apply most, if not all of this to dogs. And your pets, many of us would spend thousands of dollars and that poor pet would suffer and die of osteosarcoma in far greater numbers than humans do. So this is a very interesting company for a whole host of reasons. On that side, the pet side, as well as more or less orphan on the human side, Pete. So really good news for OSTX and obviously for the people that are affected by osteosarcoma. Well, let's dive in, Pete, to Intel, because this is what really kicked off the news today. Because the president of the United States, Mr. Trump, called for the CEO to resign. And not because he disagreed with Mr. Trump on, political front, but because he was the CEO of Cadence Design Systems, Pete, and he's now the CEO of Intel. Well, Cadence, which was a leader and just a fantastic company in electronic design automation, EDA, and semiconductor IP, well, they have basically had a checkered past, I'll say, Pete. So Cadence filed a guilty plea for illegally exporting chip designs to the Chinese military university. And that was under Mr. Tan's leadership. I don't know who at Intel, Pete, doesn't delve into these things as they should before they appoint a new CEO. But how do you just gloss over that and then make that person the head of Intel in the United States, which means that, more or less some of the bad stuff that went on there, people might worry about that happening again. And again, we don't know that that is what is happening. We just know that it smelled bad to the president, and he said that guy should resign.
It is amazing. And I think it is because of who the president is, that he is not afraid to go after somebody if he indeed sees something like this. And this is pretty clear. It was a plea for illegally exposing this chips. It's unbelievable, John, that somebody wouldn't say, hey, you know what? This is in the past, just so you know, but they didn't. And because of that, he took over as a CEO in March. How long do you think he's going to be the CEO? I would say the pressure is on. And I don't think it's just from the right side, the Trumpers, or the left side. I think a lot of folks are going to look at this and say, hey, this is wrong. And this is not the guy that we want running a company like Intel, which has a lot of ties to the United States for a lot of different reasons. And the fact that, this CEO has stepped in there, it might be one of the shortest runs for a CEO in a really long time, John, because I can't imagine that he's going to be able to hold on to this. The pressure is just going to be too much.
Yeah, and Intel's down 3% today, folks, on this, on a day when all the other domestic chip makers are flying. Yeah. And why are they flying? Because the president says if you make your chips overseas, it's going to be 100% tariff. So you can imagine that's good for an awful lot of those semi names, which should have included Intel, but doesn't today. Right. All right, let's take a look at Fortinet, Pete. This one down 25%. We had unusual activity in it. We're always happy to share those with you guys when we have that. And this was put buying. I mean, take a look at these September 95 puts were bought just 6 days ago, Pete, when the stock was 97.30. Well, it's trading down 25 to 27%, meaning those September 95 puts are now 25 or more dollars in the money. So something you paid $5 for is worth 25 bucks. I think you guys can do the math on that. That's pretty good. And I'd say people better be careful in this name, but it's certainly great to have puts in a name like this that has that kind of bad news, Pete.
Yeah, well, and the interesting thing, John, is they did crush it when it comes to the earnings. They did have a great the revenue that they were able to do. They beat on that, 1.63 billion. They were looking for 1.43 billion a year ago is what that number was. So when you look at all these numbers put up there, it's pretty impressive. But towards the end, there was a few questions that weren't getting the answers that they wanted, and suddenly KeyBank says, you know what, we're going to slap a downgrade on these guys. It's down 25% to your point, John. Last I looked, it was somewhere close to, call it, 72 bucks a share. 68 is the 52-week lows. 114 are the highs. So you can see this is pushing right up against those lows. The balance sheet is great. There's a lot of positives, but there are some negatives. And I think because of that, John, people are just saying, you know what? Sold to you, you can have it. And it's going to be interesting. I would say this. I think I'd keep a pretty close eye on this one, though, as well, because at some point, it's probably a little overdone. And I don't know that that's today, because usually we'd like to see a couple of days and see where it's going to be. But and you never have to worry. You don't have to always think that you're buying the absolute bottom. But this is one where I think you'd want to keep your eyes on it, at least for now, because pretty close to those 52-week lows. And when you look at some of the numbers they put up in the earnings itself, pretty impressive.
Well, I would agree on every single point, Pete. And it is on my radar, and I would love to pick it up. It bounced off of 70 this time. Does it test 68? Like Pete said, that's the 52-week low. He didn't draw a line in the sand, but that might be a pretty decent place to maybe start nibbling between 68 and 72, Pete.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about NBIS, because this is a hyperscaler, artificial intelligence focused hyperscaler. If that sounds like some area of the economy that you'd like to be in, no wonder this stock is up over 20% today, Pete. Traded through 70. And yes, also in this one, we had unusual activity. This was on yesterday, Pete, which kind of makes you scratch your head and say, somebody either had really, really good timing or they might have had some better information than you and I have, Pete. But our information was that somebody traded 15,000 of these calls, the August 58 calls, with the stock at 54. I covered this on 3 at 3 yesterday afternoon at 3 p.m. Well, they paid $1.24 for them, Pete. So how much of those 58 calls worth when the stock's trading 68 or 69?
Well, yeah,
10 or 11 bucks, maybe a little more.
Yeah, not so bad.
Yeah, and Pete, to have that kind of outperformance is what we all look for. We don't get it every single time, folks, but we do get them a lot. And if you want to follow us and our work, just scan the QR code that John Farrell will share with you guys, and you could be one of our subscribers. You could be a client and trading the exact same stocks that Pete and I are trading after somebody with better intel than us has actually picked the stock for us.
Yeah, there are multiple hits. It was amazing to see what this reaction was. Like you said, we never know exactly why or how or whatever, but the reality is stock's up 20+%. By the way, back in the days of early April, which was not that long ago, the stock was trading at $20, John. So the fact that it hit 52-week highs today at 70.54, not so bad. I'd say that's a pretty good run to the upside. By the way, revenue up 625% year over year. I'd say that's a pretty damn good number. How about quarter over quarter? Up 106%. So this is a company that's rolling. They're rolling. And why? Because they're in exactly the right space right now, John. And I think that's the important part is they are taking advantage of where they are. The core business is extremely strong. Their outlook was another thing that really stood out. They raised the annualized run rate that they call it for their outlook. So you can't find something that wasn't good in this one. This is one of them that, as crazy as it sounds, as it's running to the upside like this, I don't know that it's done. I think they're in the right place, right time, where this is a stock that could continue a move that could be pretty damned impressive when it's all said and done, maybe by the end of the year. So keep your eye on this one as well.
All right. Indeed, Pete, NBIS. Now let's talk about Peloton. And Pete and I have talked about it a lot. Pete was one of the first people, again, to say, you know what? That seems like it might be a really expensive clothes hanger. This is when everybody wanted in, when the stock was in the triple digits, folks. Because, people aren't going to go back to gyms. They're all going to work out at home, and it's got this big screen in front of it so you can watch, some super healthy people really push you to your next level. Turns out people do like going to the gym, Pete, and maybe some gyms have some of these, but famously, the UFC threw them out of their gyms because they basically demanded that the UFC get rid of some of these basically because of their political stance. Well, stock trades down to the single digits. We had it with unusual activity also on 3 at 3, Pete. And the stock pops 10% today because the company reported Q2 profit fueled by deep cuts across the board in marketing that caused them to move up, and those calls doubled overnight.
Yeah, a really nice move. And like you said, John, this was the darling back in 2021 when everybody was all panicked about, obviously the pandemic and everything else. No one's ever going to go to a gym again, by the way. Nope. And I'll never forget, both of us, John, not just me, you and I both would sit there and say to Scott Wapner, we'd say, hey, people tend to want to be around other people when they're working out, just for the camaraderie and all the rest of that. So don't bury, those down. The Planet Fitness is down, but you look at Peloton and what they were able to do. They had a great run to the upside, but that only can go so long. And there's only so many that they're going to sell. And that's been the problem all along. So they did have a better quarter than expected. They were supposed to lose 5 cents. They actually made 5 cents. Their revenue beat, but it's still down 6% from previous times. So is it an unbelievably great run for these guys? I don't know that I'd put it in that category, but I would say they're limping along and limping a little bit to the upside, and that's great. I don't want anything bad for these guys to happen. I just knew looking at it that there's no way that was something that could continue to go in the direction it was. At some point that was going to fall. It did. And I think it was all pandemic related, but they still have huge shorts. There's still a lot of people betting against them. So this move today of 10% probably exaggerated a little bit because of those shorts. And some of them probably are starting to think to themselves, maybe I'll cut down that exposure just a little bit, just in case. So I think that's why we're seeing Peloton where it is today.
Well, that's going to do it for stocks, folks. Now let's switch gears over to sports because Pete's Red Zone Sports is something that a lot of you, it's one of your favorite segments. So let's let him dive into college football. What do you got, Pete?
Well, there's nothing greater than college football, John. Last week, as you know, last Saturday, I was at the Gophers practice and watching those guys. They lost their quarterback who ended up going to the Minnesota Vikings. He's number 4 on the depth chart, but it's getting better and better for him. The kid's lighting it up right now out there, John, and he is behind J.J. McCarthy, who's going to be the starter, but he's really doing a really great job. All of that, as I said, but now let's look at the top 10 teams in NCAA college football going into this whole thing. And the season is just a couple of weeks away. Number 1 is the University of Texas. Number 2 is Ohio State. Why is that something I'm highlighting? Because they're 1 and 2? Well, because they will be playing Texas in Ohio at the shoe. It's going to be unbelievable, John. I think that it's gutsy too to be able to go and say, you know what, week 1, we're not just going to take, Texas A&I or whoever it might be, some smaller group or whatever. They're going right at each other. And we all know that Ohio State had a great year last year. I got one thing that might scare people a little bit. The quarterback for Ohio State is no longer there. They won the national title, but they have 2 quarterbacks that they really like. They can't quite figure out which one that they want, John. There's this kid Sayan and then this kid Kiev Holtz. They have a combined 34 pass attempts and 30 snaps they've played so far in their careers. So to say that they're pretty young guns, that's what we're looking at here right now. And it makes it that much more fun, but you've got Arch Manning on the other side, everybody's darling in terms of a quarterback. I just think that it's a cool thing to see that you're actually seeing a top tier team play against another. And it's not just top tier, it's number 1, number 2 in week 1. You got to love that. It's going to be packed. About what do they hold? They hold like 104, 105,000, I think, at Ohio State. It'll be all of that and then some out if you look at the people out in the parking lot. So what do you think? Do you want to throw out any predictions right now, John? Do you feel like, is this Texas going to be ready to do this on the road, though? And Arch doesn't have a lot of experience either, right?
Right. I love this game, Pete, the way it's setting up, just like I love the Cowboys-Eagles, the way that one's setting up. For a different reason, of course. Cowboys, I think, can barely stay on the field with the Eagles. Now, you Cowboy fans are going to give me a lot of hate for that. But the Eagles, that is a team that's built just to win. And the Cowboys are a team in a little bit of disarray, I'd say, Pete. But as far as Arch Manning and going on the road and things, again, just like we said about Shadur yesterday, there's no stage too big for this guy because he's used to the pressure. He had to come in last year, Pete, when he was playing behind Ewers. And I remember the first play he did, he marched him down the field. And I want to say that very quickly he threw a touchdown pass on that march. Manning has that Manning blood running through his veins, Pete. And 104, 110,000, just another day for him. And Ohio State's the one that should be worried because those 2 quarterbacks are obviously talented, or Ohio State wouldn't have recruited them. But like you say, a combined 34 passes, it's going to take more than that to beat Texas.
Yeah, Texas is loaded, man. They're loaded absolutely everywhere. But that's going to be a great game, number 1, number 2, and that's just a couple of weeks away. All right, John, next up, I just want to throw this one out to you because I think we're both on the same page on this one. We had a great experience going to Dallas when the 2 of us were in New York all the time, and Jerry Jones reached out to us, and it was really awesome. And who was the guy who picked us up? Pat Summerall, John, in the car?
Pat Summerall.
I mean, how great is that? Here's one of the greatest announcers ever in football, and he was sent to go pick up 2 schmoes from New York to come to a Dallas game. We got a chance to see the stadium and how cool that is. We had a chance to be up in the owner's box and the whole deal. I mean, absolutely an unbelievable experience. But that all being said, I want to defend Jerry Jones just a little bit here, John. And here's what I mean by that. People called him an idiot for paying $144 million to buy the Cowboys. Well, now they're worth $10 billion. So apparently he's not that big of an idiot. And then let's look at all the different players over the years who there was negotiations for sure, very similar to what the president's doing. There are negotiations. They don't always start off smooth. And everybody is yelling at him because of what's going on with Micah Parsons and all the rest of it. Well, he's had quarterbacks, he's had receivers, he's had other guys of different positions over all these years of being the owner of the team, where he has decided to do the handshake and they get a deal. Well, he did a handshake deal with Micah, and apparently the handshake didn't stick. So that's part of this whole thing, and that's okay. I think here's what's going to happen. I think he gets it done with Micah Parsons. I don't think he wants to trade him. Michael wants to be traded. He's showing up at practice every day. He's wearing his number 11 jersey every day, but he's not on the field. And at this point in time, John, I'm not sure he's going to be able to even be in the shape that he'd want to be for game one, quite frankly. So, the longer this goes, but they've got to come up with something. And there is no way, even though everybody keeps talking about it, he's going to go to the Steelers because he'll be there with Aaron Rodgers. I really don't think that's going to happen. He's going to go to the Rams. He's going to go to this team. He's going to go to that team. I don't see any of that. But, nothing is, there's always some sort of a possibility of something like that. But this guy is great. John, I threw down one set of stats. So in the last 4 years, he's got 52.5 sacks, 177 quarterback pressures. He's number one in both categories. So this is one hell of a good football player. We already knew that. You and I both watch enough football. We know how good this kid is. He's an absolute athletic freak from Penn State. So I just wonder, when's he going to sign? He's going to sign with the Cowboys. I just wonder how big that's going to be. And my guess would be this guy might be damn near close to getting quarterback type money, John. I mean, he might get up there towards $50 million a year. Sounds crazy to say it, but that might be what they have to pay him.
Well, Pete, I'll throw out the other couple stats.
Sure.
Micah's 25, TJ Watt's 30. So as you might imagine, TJ Watt's played in nearly double the games, 121 games versus 63. Solo tackles, Micah Parsons, 172, TJ Watt, 331. Again, it's hard unless you want to average them. But again, averaging them means you're taking the youngest version of TJ Watt versus Micah Parsons, not where TJ is today. But Micah has 52.5 sacks. TJ Watt has 108. So even though he's got 5 years on him, he's still putting up double the numbers into these last 5 years. So yeah. I think that's really impressive, Pete. Tackles for losses, same thing. He's still doubled up on Micah Parsons. Fumbles recovered. It's not close. Micah Parsons 9, TJ Watt 29. So obviously he must be really good at that strip sack, Pete, or punching the ball out when the running back's running with it and so forth. Fumble recoveries 12 versus 4. TJ Watt again leading, and interceptions 7-zip. So TJ Watt is all over that field, Pete. And that's why he got the biggest contract in history for anybody but a quarterback, 143 mil. And I think, what was it, Pete? 100 million of that was guaranteed or something like that?
Something like that, yep.
Now, that's not casting shade or, throwing shade on Micah. He's great. I think one of these teams, Pete, might have a player and probably 2 draft picks that they'd have to give up to get a 25-year-old Micah Parsons. Would that be interesting for Jerry Jones, who sucker punched the Vikings in that Herschel Walker trade and made his Super Bowl run because of it?
Yeah,
I would say yes. So if you're the Rams, if you're Detroit, if you're even the Eagles, he'd rather not trade within the division. We both know that. But if one of those teams, Pete, offered him 2 number ones and a player that could step in and play, if I'm Jerry Jones, I say all day long, I'll take that. I'll take that all day long. Even though Micah's a great player, I would take that deal hands down. And I could be wrong. Maybe they'll only offer 1 number 1 and maybe number 2 in the next year or whatever, and another player. But these GMs are going to get creative the way you would, Pete, in terms of, hey, if we have this guy, again, look at Detroit. If you had this guy on the opposite side, Pete, of that
Hutchinson,
Hutchinson, the fierce pass rusher on the other, if you had those two, how do you defend it? screen pass all day. Is that what you're going to try to do? So yeah, it's going to be exciting, and Jerry is nobody's fool when it comes to trades, if that's the way it goes, Pete.
I'm amazed at all the criticism that he gets, though, John. I mean, it's amazing. All these sports guys all want to rip him a new you-know-what because he's done this, he's done that. It's like, hey, look, he ended up signing Dak. He ended up signing, the receiver. He ends up
CeeDee Lamb.
Yeah, CeeDee Lamb. And yet he catches all this flack from all these guys because it might take a little bit of time, and he's negotiating, he's doing all this stuff. I don't see it at all. And I don't say that just because we both like Jerry Jones. I just look at it and say, all right, this guy's a damn good businessman. He does the things that he needs to do right. But the only hit that he's taking probably is the fact they haven't been to a Super Bowl in a while. But let's be honest. I mean, they're in there with Philly. Philly's been damn good. The Giants at one point in time, they were damn good, right? I mean, they haven't been lately, but they used to be.
Both won 2 Super Bowls, Pete, the Giants and the Eagles in the last decade. So,
and Washington's not bad either. When Ron Rivera was coaching at Washington, Giants seemed like they did pretty well. So, so they've been in a tough division. And you know what? Kudos to Jerry for sticking with his guns and what he does. I still like the idea of the handshake, and nobody else seems to care that they had a deal, John. They did shake hands.
Yeah, they may have, Pete, but again, it's again, we're both friends with Jerry, but it's not right to not have the guy's agent there.
Right.
You can negotiate, and you can say, based on what we've discussed, I would sign this, but it's based on what we've discussed, and I want it in writing. Yeah. And I want my agent here. I can't blame Micah for that, Pete.
Right.
And I'm not saying he or Jerry are disingenuous. I'm just saying, it's not right to basically try to hold a guy to something that you discussed, and there was, it's not worth the paper it's not written on.
Right. Well said.
All right, folks. Hey, we appreciate it. We're going to be doing a special Rebel's Edge for Friday, tomorrow. And it's a surprise, and it's not going to be about the markets. So we'll tell you about that tomorrow. Until then, stay tuned to Market Rebellion Television, and we'll see you tomorrow. Bang.